Firearms Policy Council getting another big win for those supporting the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yesterday, the federal panel of judges said, hey, the ATF's pistol brace rule is unconstitutional. And let's get to the latest here with litigation against gun laws and gun regulations. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And let's go ahead and check out what FPC has to say on their website. FPC and FPCAF win Fifth Circuit rules that ATF pistol brace rule is likely illegal. So this being posted yesterday, and FPC is a gun rights advocacy and litigation organization, and they've been across the country suing on a whole host of fronts, and they've been pretty successful in using the Bruin decision from last summer to attack certain gun laws. But what's happening with this particular case with the pistol brace rule? So they say yesterday, Firearms Policy Coalition and FPC Action Foundation announced that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled in Mock v. Garland, finding the FPC and FPCAF are likely to win on the merits of their lawsuit challenging ATF's pistol brace rule. The Fifth Circuit also remanded the lawsuit back to the district court with instructions to reconsider the other preliminary injunction factors within 60 days. They link to the opinion there, which you can go through and read in detail. But in the court opinion, one of the judges wrote that the ATF incorrectly maintains that the final rule is merely interpretive, not legislative, and thus not subject to the logical outgrowth test. The final rule affects individual rights, speaks with force of law, and significantly implies private interests, or implicates private interest. Thus, it is legislative in character. Then, because the final rule bears almost no resemblance in manner or kind of the proposed rule, the final rule fails to amount to the logical outgrowth test and violates the APA. FPC goes on to say that the court goes to the states to ensure relative stability, that we maintain the preliminary injunction pending appeal that the motions panel issued on May 23rd of 2023 and clarifies by the merits panel on May 26, 2023. This court's injunction will expire 60 days from the date of this decision or once the district court rules on a preliminary injunction, whichever occurs first. We direct the district courts to rule within 60 days. So this is, again, another big victory for FPC and for those who believe that the pistol brace rule was unconstitutional because it's very similar to the frames and receivers rule that's in legal trouble after courts have determined that the ATF can't just craft rules and say that a hunk of metal that might have some notches and some holes in it is considered a firearm. And you've got that ongoing throughout the courts as well. But here we are now with another ATF rule that was challenged and being found that you can't just craft rules and expect that to curb Second Amendment rights. So the pistol brace rule really, it boils down to the ATF saying that a pistol brace is used to turn a handgun into a short-barreled rifle and therefore must be registered as part of the National Firearms Act, which regulates machine guns and other types of firearms. But you get the arguments of, well, this wasn't legislatively crafted. This was done through rule, and that's something that you just can't do to curb rights. But it goes on to say here, FPC in their news release, they say that a quote from some of the general counsel here said in the simplest terms, the Fifth Circuit just indicated that the plaintiffs' Firearms Policy Coalition, Maximum Defense, and FPC's individual members are likely to defeat ATF's pistol brace rule when the merits of this case are finally heard. That's according to FPCAF's general counsel. This is a huge win for peaceable gun owners across the nation, a huge win for FPC's members, and yet another massive defeat for ATF and this administration's gun control agenda. Goes on to say that individuals who would like to join FPC's grassroots army and supports the pro-rights lawsuits and programs can sign up. And then again, this is an organization, the Firearms Policy Coalition, a nonprofit. They've got a litigation arm that has just been rocking out these lawsuits. But here we are. That's just one element. And what's fascinating about covering all of the Second Amendment, cases. And listen, I am in no way an expert in law. I am in no way an expert on firearms. But I can track these things, and it's not just in Illinois where you've got a variety of lawsuits, everything from challenging the state's gun and magazine ban that's still tied up in the courts to challenging Illinois' firearm owner identification card that's tied up in the courts. You've also got across the country all of these different laws and regulations that are being challenged. Ultimately, people saying that the Second Amendment is pretty clear that a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. And looks like, at least when it comes to some courts, they see the text and history of the Second Amendment. They review the Bruin decision and the Heller decision from previous Supreme Court precedent, and they're using those and the Second Amendment text, history, and tradition to highlight how these firearm legislation, these firearm laws, these rules are violations of individuals' rights to keep and bear arms. And we'll continue to see these cases as governments try to, time and again, block individuals' abilities to exercise their Second Amendments. So again, FPC getting another win here, and I think really in a way, FPC is showing themselves to be a much stronger force than the National Rifle Association. I haven't seen the National Rifle Association is always a boogeyman for those who want more gun control. I've seen it on social media, people responding to a story about this, for instance, and they instantly, say, "Oh, the NRA's at it again." Well, FPC has to respond saying, "We're not the NRA." So you've got FPC, you've got Gun Owners of America, you've got the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Even here in Illinois, you've got the Illinois State Rifle Association, the firearms rights groups that are coalescing around the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois. So you've got all of these groups, but obviously, they can't do it alone. They need people to step up and fund their coffers to pay for legal costs to take these things to court. So a lot of different lawsuits, victories stacking up, and this is just the latest from FPC when it comes to the pistol brace rule, and that being found to likely advance on its merits. Now, what's fascinating again is this is not a final determination of the rule. This just merely says that the plaintiffs are likely to succeed once the issues are ultimately dealt with in court. So we'll watch all this closely, not just this case, but of course we'll be watching closely to see what happens out of the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Still at a holding pattern. They've got the case that they heard challenging Illinois' gun and magazine ban. They've had that for well over a month now. When are they going to announce that? We've got the prospect of Thomas Magg, an attorney here in Illinois, suing the state over the gun and magazine ban on Fifth Amendment grounds. So that deals with the gun registry. We'll see when that gets filed and if that gets taken up. But you've also got cases challenging the Illinois FOID card on a couple of different fronts. And that's just a small sample of all the cases across the country where you've got individuals having to go to the courts to defend their Second Amendment